Labour is expected to use an arcane parliamentary procedure in an attempt to force the government to release private documents relating to the Windrush scandal. The party is seeking to replicate the technique it used to successfully force the government's hand, releasing the 58 Brexit economic assessments that ministers fought to keep secret. The anticipated vote on the Windrush papers will come after Theresa May and Jeremy Corbyn's weekly session of Prime Minister's questions, ahead of tomorrow's local elections. And the Prime Minister is also expected to convene her Brexit cabinet later today in an attempt to thrash out a deal on customs. 3 minutes ago, Prime Minister's questions has now started. Amber Rudd, who resigned as Home Secretary on Sunday, is sat 4 rows behind the Prime Minister. Her first appearance as a backbencher. 31 minutes ago, it's being reported that the Conservatives will be forced to vote against Labour's motion in the Commons later today. The Labour Party spokesperson has just responded this, telling The Independent, if the architect of this cruel farce, the Prime Minister, is ordering her MPs to vote to keep her role in this mess hidden from the public, it exposes the Tories' crocodile tears on the Windrush scandal as a sham. We need answers, not further cover-ups, to save Theresa May from facing up to her involvement in the removal of rights, detentions and possible deportations of British citizens. After letting Rudd take the fall for her decisions, how can the public have any trust in the Prime Minister? 53 minutes ago on the Customs Union, Tom Brake, the Liberal Democrat MP and Best for Britain supporter, said, the Prime Minister is kicking the can down the road in a desperate attempt to hold the widening fissures of the Tory party together. It cannot and will not work. The Prime Minister must keep us in the Customs Union and then put her deal to the people. We need a final say on the Brexit deal. 1 hour ago, Theresa May is facing fresh accusations of being held hostage by extreme Brexiteers, as a crucial decision on new customs rules after leaving the EU is set to be delayed again. Clash on which alternative to the customs union the UK will pursue, which has the potential to spark cabinet resignations and a backbench revolt, will dominate a meeting of key ministers today. 1 hour ago, the government may have mistakenly deported more than 7,000 foreign students after falsely accusing them of cheating in English language tests. Most of the students were not allowed to appeal the Home Office decision, nor were they able to obtain evidence against them, or given the opportunity to prove the proficiency in English. 1 hour ago, here is the motion that Labour is putting down in the Commons later today on Windrush for their Opposition Day debate. It can potentially go on until around 7 p.m. 1 hour ago. This is the latest poll from YouGov on Westminster voting intention, which was conducted after Amber Rudd's resignation as Home Secretary. YouGov, what the world thinks. Latest YouGov Westminster voting intention figures. 2 hours ago, fresh bullying allegations have been made against the Speaker of the House of Commons, John Bercow. A former private secretary to the Speaker, Angus Sinclair, told BBC Two's Newsnight that Mr. Bercow undermined him by mimicking him, swearing and shouting, and that he once smashed a mobile phone by throwing it on the desk in front of him. 2 hours ago, Theresa May is facing fresh accusations of being held hostage by extreme Brexiteers, as a crucial decision on new customs rules after leaving the EU is set to be delayed again. Clash on which alternative to the customs union the UK will pursue, which has the potential to spark cabinet resignations and a backbench revolt, will dominate a meeting of key ministers today. 2 hours ago, speaking on Radio 4's Today program, David Lidington, the Cabinet Office Minister, hinted that a final decision on a customs deal may not be taken at today's meeting of the so-called Brexit War Cabinet. He told BBC Radio 4's Today the discussions would start this afternoon and will probably continue in other meetings. The two proposals had been the subject of intensive analytical work by civil servants, who had been looking at the practicalities, the operational challenges that would have to be surmounted, all these problems, the legal risks and so on. This will be the first time today for cabinet colleagues to sit down and have a constructive discussion about the way forward, he said. Mr. Lidington added, I expect we will come to a decision on this, as well as on other important elements of our negotiating position, over the next few weeks. He indicated that the full cabinet may be invited to consider the position by Mrs. May after the Brexit subcommittee has discussed the options. She was also talking all the time and listening all the time to voices of Conservative MPs, Conservative Party supporters, from all strands of the debate about Europe. He added that before June summit of EU leaders, we need to be making every effort to ensure there is significant progress in the negotiations. 2 hours ago, this is from the Press Association on Jacob Rees-Mogg's interview on Radio 4 this morning. Influential Eurosceptic Tory Jacob Rees-Mogg has rejected the government's proposed customs partnership with Brussels as deeply unsatisfactory, claiming it would effectively keep the UK in The EU, a paper produced by the European research group he chairs setting out opposition to the plan, has been sent to the Prime Minister, but Mr Rees-Mogg insisted he was not in the business of making threats to Theresa May. He told BBC Radio 4's Today programme, "There is no question of there being an ultimatum. This is a paper that has been produced on a specific aspect of policy that would not work. It would not effectively take us out of the European Union. It would leave us de facto in both the customs union and in the single market. The option is one of two proposals being considered by the Brexit War Cabinet," and Mr Rees-Mogg said, "This customs partnership is one of those clever ideas that sounded plausible when first looked at, and when the detail is examined turns out to be deeply unsatisfactory, flawed, and not get us out of the European Union, which is what people voted for." Mr Rees-Mogg insisted it was inconceivable that I would support a vote of no confidence in Mrs May's government. But in a message to Mr Rees-Mogg and his Eurosceptic allies, Tory MP Vicky Ford told Today, "We should not tie the hands of the government at this stage of the negotiations, and we should allow them to continue those negotiations without holding guns to their heads." She insisted, "The customs partnership is not intended to keep us in the customs union or the single market by the back door." Ms Ford said, "It would be an issue of resolving the issue on the Irish border, the need to have no border in the Irish Sea, and to give easy, frictionless trade between the UK and the rest of Europe, whilst also enabling our own trade policy with other parts of the world." 3 hours ago, Brexit talks between British and European Commission officials will resume later this week in Brussels, following a warning from Brussels that time is limited to solve the Irish border issue. Chief negotiator Michel Barnier on Monday said the border issue needed substantive progress before the European Council summit at the end of June. 3 hours ago, Labour is to use an obscure parliamentary procedure to try to force the government to release secret documents relating to the Windrush scandal. The party will force a House of Commons vote on Wednesday in a bid to compel ministers to hand over internal correspondence revealing what they knew about the problems being faced by Windrush immigrants, and how they responded. 3 hours ago, the immigration minister has made a face-to-face apology to members of the Windrush generation who have been wrongly threatened with deportation and denied their rights in Britain. Speaking to a room of people affected by the recent scandal, Caroline Noakes said she was personally sorry to those affected, and pledged to put things right as swiftly and effectively as possible. 3 hours ago, modern slavery is not fully understood by the government and it has no idea if its crackdown is working, MPs have said, while warning that Brexit could worsen the situation. The Public Accounts Committee concluded that good intentions have yet to result in coherent action against the crimes, with no measure of success for a nationwide strategy and inconsistency between regional police forces. 3 hours ago, fresh bullying allegations have been made against the Speaker of the House of Commons, John Bercow. A former private secretary to the Speaker, Angus Sinclair, told BBC Two's Newsnight that Mr Bercow undermined him by mimicking him, swearing and shouting, and that he once smashed a mobile phone by throwing it on the desk in front of him. Reuse content. We use cookies to enhance your visit to our site and to bring you advertisements that might interest you. Read our privacy and cookie policies to find